my God, I'm back. Back in the saddle again, people. It's been a hot minute. It's been more than a hot minute. It's been a long time. Mikey Trudel.
Yeah, hey, how's it
How are you,
going?
pal?
Good.
It's good to see you across the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's been a while. We've had a bunch of people come in and do guest appearances, and man, they've been killing it. It's been great stuff.
Yeah, like the fluidity of prop masters.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So yeah, you definitely need more in different voices in the room. So I'm happy for that. Yeah. So part of the reason I was out is because I did season 2 of Stick for Apple, and it was big.
Is it out yet?
No. Season 1 is out, but season 2 is in with the editors. So we were just talking about it, maybe November-ish, something like that. Okay. Hopefully. But one of the good things about working on Stick was that I got to work with our guest today, Hala Bahmet. I knew I was going to screw it up. Hi, Hala. How are you?
Hi. Good morning. Hi.
So Hala was our costume designer on Stick, and a wonderful costume designer. I'm surprised we haven't worked together in all these years, but happy that we did. And we will get into the whole Stick situation and all. But I just wanted to start off by finding out a little bit about your backstory and where you're from and how you got into business. And so you said you're Ukrainian. Are you from Ukraine?
No, I was born in Chicago.
Nice.
My parents are from Ukraine. They came in, after World War II. They immigrated to the United States, and they met in Chicago, and that's where my sisters and I were born. We were born in Chicago in the Ukrainian village. There's a whole Ukrainian and Polish neighborhood there. And then my father he was in graduate school actually when I was born. My mother's a chemist. My father was a college professor. And
nice.
My father got a teaching position at McAllister College in Minnesota. So we all moved to Minnesota. So another new adventure for my parents, pick it up and move, halfway across the country. And so I grew up in Minnesota.
What part of Minnesota?
St. Paul.
St. Paul, nice, beautiful.
St. Paul. And then in college, I lived in Minneapolis, of course, with all the cool kids and all like that. But, yeah.
With Dave Berger.
When you grow up in Minnesota, Minnesota, of course, is a big music town, as everyone knows, many different genres, and a big theater town, of course, Guthrie Theater, and many, many small, wonderful theaters. And so growing up in Minnesota, the film business really wasn't on my radar. Like I think for kids or for people who grow up in maybe New York, but certainly in LA and LA area, the film business is sort of on their radar. It sort of exists around them somehow. Whether they've encountered studios or shoots in their neighborhoods or whatever it is. But in Minnesota and Minneapolis, that just wasn't really on my radar. And it's kind of a funny story how I got into the business because I was a college student. I have 2 degrees. I was studying studio art and then also textiles.
Nice.
Those were 2 separate departments in the college where I went to school. And they actually let me create like my own kind of a special degree. It was the first time that college had done that. And because I was interested in textiles and interested in weaving and all the historic value of textiles and historic adornment and costume history and clothing
history. Were you a weaver
history.
Yourself?
Yes.
You had a loom and everything?
Yeah, yes. Wow. I never got to the big one, but I had
Nice.
I had access. All the stuff, my mother actually taught us the Ukrainian part of my heritage is an important part of it because I grew up surrounded by, our traditional textiles and embroideries and all of that kind of stuff. So that was really part of I feel like now that I look at it in retrospect, I realized that was an important part of my interest in textiles.
Sure.
And ultimately in clothing and in filmmaking, and costuming and all that stuff. But it really started at home with our natural, our traditional textiles, which were very important to us to carry on our culture, because when you have to move halfway across the world to start life over again after a horrible war, as children, they experienced the World War II. Then I feel like I'm grateful to my parents for having they wanted to support our traditional cultural elements, and textiles was a really big part of that.
Beautiful.
But so anyway, so in college, I'm studying textiles and I'm studying studio art. And I was doing jewelry making and ceramics, all this, all the fun, cool stuff. And I was living in an apartment, and and I had a neighbor who lived across the hall from me,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a lighting designer for bands.
Oh,
And I knew
nice.
this. I didn't really quite know exactly what it meant, but when he would go out of town or go on the road or go to a show out of town, I would take in his mail.
Ah,
And so he came back from wherever he was, and we were literally standing in the laundry room in the basement. This is Minneapolis, right?
of course.
We're in the basement, old building, laundry room, and we're folding clothes. And he's talking about the show that he just did, the band, and that was sort of my aha moment because I realized, and I can't even remember who the band is now, which is so weird, but
What year
um,
was it?
that must have been. I was in college, so it must have been. I don't know, 1990 maybe,
1990s, yeah.
maybe 89,
Okay,
may have been 89. It was late 80s.
right. A lot of
Yeah,
great
probably
bands
late
in the
80s.
90s in Minneapolis, that's for sure.
Well, yes, of
Yeah,
course. And we knew a bunch of us, we knew a bunch of the local bands and stuff. And that was just part of the culture when you grew up there. And if you're in that creative community and all like that. But I don't think I was married yet. Maybe I was married. My husband is from Minnesota too.
mm,
But anyway, so his name is Stan Crocker, and he is an incredible lighting designer and went on to do like Sting and, Santana
right.
and Eric
Oh, nice.
Clapton and Cyndi Lauper. And I mean, I don't even know all the band. I mean, Motley Crue and the Psychedelic Furs. And like, I mean, he just did
Nice.
all these different bands and was
Cool.
just, I think, probably is one of the top lighting designers for shows and for musical shows and things. So anyway, so he happened to be my neighbor across the hall at that point. We were younger, and so we're in the laundry room, we're folding the laundry, and he tells me the band that he was on tour with, and I was like, oh wait, whatever the band was, they change costumes. They have this whole flamboyant kind of show thing.
Okay,
And so I asked him, that's when it first occurred to me. I'm like, oh, so does the band, do they provide their own costumes? How does that work?
right.
He said, oh no, 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 no. No, no, no. They're the stylists, and I had never heard the
Wow,
stylist. I thought that meant like a hairstylist or something. I
right.
didn't know. And and so he says, "Oh, well, my really good friend she's working with Prince right now. Here's her number." And he literally wrote it
Wow.
like on some little piece of some kind of scrap of paper. He's like, "Oh, here's her number. You should call her." And I was in my January term in college. So we have this January term we have off and we have to go do like internships or whatever.
Right.
And so I just cold called this person, Lou Eyrick, who became a really good friend of
Lou.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love Lou.
Lou.
We're a big
And
fan
it
of
was
Lou
Lou.
Love,
here.
love Lou.
It was Lou. Okay, so it was
Oh,
Lou. So we
great.
have, and so I have terrific pictures of us before any of us were really in the business from back
Right.
home, back in the day.
Fantastic.
But so she said, "Oh, well, yeah, here, call up, here's the designer's number, call up, Helen Hyatt, who's a friend of, who's wonderful, who's the designer of so Prince was doing a film at that, he was gearing up to do a film,
Mm,
which was Graffiti Bridge, which was his last feature film.
Hmm.
And so I just called up and volunteered. I have the whole month of January off.
nice.
I would love to do an internship. I can come and work for free.
Nice.
So showed up at Paisley Park, scared little chicken that I was, college girl, and was, I did all the usual kind of PA, intern kind of stuff, like
Sure.
making copies and running around the building and trying to make copies and like go to get some coffees or all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then they realized what my sewing skills actually were because I actually am and was a really good stitcher and seamstress at that point because of my interest in textiles and
Right.
clothing. And I was
Right.
making all my own I was making all my own cool clothes because A, I didn't have any money,
Right.
and B, I couldn't find what I wanted in the stores because
Right.
it was all just kind of boring stuff. So then they figured out rather quickly that I actually have some skills, and so they put me to work in the shop, in the costume shop, which was wonderful
Beautiful.
experience. And I learned so much.
I'll
I
bet.
mean, the expert tailors and pattern makers and cutters and fitters and the fittings and the fabrics and the machines. I
Right.
mean, I had seen industrial sewing machines
Right.
previously, but I mean, giant like pressing tables with the big steam irons and these huge machines like industrial machines that make rivets in clothing and that were
Right.
cutting, we were cutting license plates in half and putting them on like leather jackets and
Oh,
Right.
doing all
neat.
this
Yeah, it's the
really,
90s. Yeah.
yeah, but like really creative, like beyond, really interesting creative work. And so I was exposed to all of this like new stuff that I had never, seen before. And anyway, so that was so then so Helen Hyatt, the designer of Graffiti Bridge, lovely, wonderful person. I volunteered for like a week unpaid as an internship, and
Sure.
then she put me on payroll when she figured out, and she put me in the shop, and
Oh, that's
I
good.
started doing like small things like put the hems on this shirt or put a French seam in this blouse or do,
Right.
like small pieces of the
Yeah.
wardrobe stuff. She put me on payroll and I was so thrilled
I'll
because I
bet.
was making, well, I remember I was making 300, or no, $3.35 an hour,
Nice.
which was, and I was delighted. I was driving my Volkswagen Beetle in the snow all the way out to Chanhassen and every day. And
Wow.
there was like snowstorms and all this stuff. It was just a wonderful experience and a wonderful entrance into the biz, and that's when I realized, oh, there is this thing, this film business, and you don't. So for me, as a textiles person and a designer and an artist, I felt like, oh, it doesn't have to be fashion. It doesn't have to be driven
Right.
by what are the current styles and what are, in terms of if I was going to be a clothing designer or whatever. And so film became this extraordinary sort of concept for me because it's always something different.
Yeah.
It's going to be period, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be rock and roll, it's going to be historic. And so it kind of, what it did is it married up all of my interests, because I was interested in history and art history, and I was studying art history at the same time and costume history and all that stuff. So that experience really basically launched me. And then, of course, Minneapolis is a smaller town. I mean, it's
Right.
not a small town, but it's a smaller community in terms of the film and the
Yeah.
theater people.
Yeah.
And so the word gets out, like, so when I finished that, I went back, I finished my semester and whatever. And so then the word gets out, and all of a sudden people start calling, like, oh, we're doing a commercial and they need a wardrobe stylist. And I was like, aha, I know what a wardrobe stylist is now.
Right.
And so it was just, yeah, and so it was just a series of commercials working with some really wonderful local people and just doing, like yogurt commercials or
Sure.
best, whatever, whatever, just basic, easy
Yeah.
stuff. And then, of course, when films would come to town, if there would be a feature that would be shooting in Minneapolis or in Minnesota, then I would be called in to day play or to, do some additional work.
Right.
Because I wasn't really that experienced at that point. I do have a funny story. I have a funny
Yeah,
story about
please do.
my first actual PA job, if you guys have time for
Yeah.
Of
it.
Yeah.
But
course.
so this movie comes to town and it's called Drop Dead Fred.
Right. I remember
And this
that.
is, a lot of people that are watching this probably weren't even born yet. But so there's this movie called Drop Dead Fred, and people know that, oh yeah, she worked for Prince and she's done a few things and she's done some commercials. So they hired me as a PA with the ADs in production to do crowd control,
Oh, wow. It's like a real PA.
like a real
Like a
PA with a
production PA.
walkie-talkie
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the whole thing. And so there was one huge shoot day. My first day was this big giant shoot day that was happening in some kind of like a mall, a huge public space in
Right.
downtown Minneapolis. I think it was some kind of a shopping mall or big department store or something like
Right.
that. And so there are civilians. My job was to make sure that nobody walks through the shop, which we
Right.
all know what that.
Yep.
Of course, I could do it now, no problem. But at that time, I did one day
Yeah.
only because whenever some civilians tried to walk into the area of the set where I was supposed to be controlling
Right.
the pedestrian traffic, I was too nice. I was like, "Oh, sir,
Right.
sir, ma'am," and I would approach people, and they'd look at me like, "What is this girl like?
Right.
What's this girl telling us?" And they keep walking and
Sure.
walk through the shot, and they would, and I, of course, I got yelled at, and all the things happened, but not in a bad way. But anyway, so then they found out that I could actually sew and that my experience was really in costumes and clothing and textiles. And then
Nice.
they promptly put me into the costume department, where I helped create some of the costumes. There were some really interesting costumes that were being made for one of the scenes in the show, and it was a scene with waiters who were wearing togas with grapes stitched onto their
Nice.
shoulders, and this whole fanciful, beautiful thing. And so they put me in the costume department, and I was sewing on the grapes and helping with the togas and all that. So that was That was my first sort of onset experience, but I think it's really funny because I think, the worst PA there. The LA people were like, who, what?
Right. Where
No.
did you find this person? That's
So,
good because
but
it
so,
got you transitioned to where you need to be.
yeah, yeah. But so it was a great experience. And again, it's a small town, so any movie that would come to town. And then my husband and I, we were at that point, we got married and he was in graduate school and
Hmm.
I was doing these gigs, doing as a stylist and coming in. If a movie was coming to town, they'd be like, oh, here's 100 boots, age them. Go into
Right.
the hallway in the back of the hotel and age all these boots. And so I was doing all these kinds of, um, costume prep type of things. And we quickly realized that if I was going to move up in the department to do set or to move into the design work, which is what my goal was ultimately, but I knew at
Hmm.
that point that I needed to,
Right.
start it from the beginning, old-fashioned me, thinking, of course, I want to start as a stitcher and as a dyer and all these things, which I
Right.
did, which is great because that's what makes me a much better designer. But
Exactly.
but so we decided, my husband and I, who's in graduate school, he was finishing up, and so let's move to LA. Let's give
Nice.
it a try. If we hate it, we can just move back to Minneapolis, no problem. So we moved to LA and I started getting jobs, and what started happening is actually because I was from Minnesota originally,
Right.
I was getting called to go back to Minnesota to
Interesting.
work as a
Yeah.
costumer on Mighty Ducks 1,
Oh, cool.
Grumpy Old Men. So I
Nice.
did those. I also did The Sandlot in Utah. I worked with this one costume designer for a number of like 5 shows with her, and kind of went all around the country with her. But so they called me back to Minnesota because like, she can work on a frozen lake. She's, like, because
She
Grumpy
knows
Old Men, I mean, that was
cold.
me and the costume and the wardrobe truck driver were the first people on set at 4 in the morning out on
Yeah.
some frozen lake out in the middle of nowhere,
Uh-huh.
literally working on a frozen lake on the
Right.
ice. And so, yeah, of course, I mean, I had the gear, I had the, I could do.
Right.
So anyway, so I sort of launched. I went back to Minneapolis to then, move my career forward, and so that's because I could handle, and because I knew where everything was and I
Sure.
knew where to stop and
So
all
you
the
made
things.
the move
So
to LA and then you had to move back to Minneapolis.
yes, but I just went back and I think once I actually stayed with my parents.
Hmm.
Like I worked as a local. Yes. I worked as a local on, I think Mighty Ducks 1, which of course was ice and skating,
Sure.
which was interesting because I was a skater.
Oh, nice.
I was a gymnast and a dancer and a skater, those things, just as extracurriculars, not as
Right.
a profession.
Sure.
Um, because I grew up with an ice skating rink on the corner of my
Of
block.
course.
So every night my sisters and I we'd literally skate down the street on
Yeah.
the
Nice.
ice, get to the ice rink. So
Right. Lots
they're
of
like,
ice in Minnesota.
she's going to be great as a set person. And so I ended up wearing my skates because I had to chase all these kids around in their stuffed animals and all their gloves and their things. And
That's
like,
brilliant.
and they're little tykes and they had put them into training camps. They weren't Minnesota kids. Some of them were, but they had, of course, their training camps and everything to teach them how to skate, but they did not know. I mean, there would be one glove over here and one glove over there,
Yeah.
and we were handling that. The props weren't. And they're tying their skates on, and somebody, and just helping them along. So I did set on Mighty Ducks 1 on ice skates myself
Wow.
because it was the only way I could get around to
Yeah, that's
get to
brilliant. I
the
love
kid,
it.
Seems
you
fun.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did that on not Grumpy Old Men we did it. And then I did Mighty Ducks 2, but I did the LA portion of it. I didn't go back to Minnesota for that portion of it. But we did lots of ice again. And so I'm back on my skates, in interior ice rinks, in
Right.
climate control, the ice rinks inside here. But so lots of sport and the Sandlot. I did the Sandlot, of course. Um, Somewhere in between there, I think I did the Sandlot, baseball, Utah.
Hmm.
Lots of kids running around. I was the
Lots.
only
Oh,
set
yeah. More
person.
kids.
Man, I
You
tell
were
you,
the only set person?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I was, I guess I was young and fast and
Yeah. Well, we all were at some point.
Yeah.
I look back on it now and I just think, okay, wow. But so it was really a wonderful experience. And it's funny because now I'll be in a fitting with an actor, with an adult actor.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be in a fitting and they'll be talking about this, that, and we chat and we get to know each other. And so Minnesota always comes up. One of my
Sure.
stitchers and tailors is also from Minnesota. There's always a bunch of us Minnesotans on my crew. So Minnesota comes up and they're like
Yeah.
sports and they talk about Mighty Ducks. And then I mentioned the Sandlot and all these like adult actors like, oh, that was my favorite movie when I was 5.
Right.
I mean, it's still one of my favorite movies. It's one of those movies you can't turn off when it comes on.
I know. And it's on TV all the time. But I
Yeah.
just always, I mean, it literally happens on every show where some 20
Yeah.
some year old or even 30 year old or 20 some year old actor finds out that I did The Sandlot and they just lose their minds and, oh, I was 5. And I'm like, yeah, I know you were 5. I'm so glad you love that movie. I love that movie. But it's funny. It's just, I've been doing this for 30,
Yeah, we,
Right.
we we have a poster of Squints here in the studio actually.
Oh,
You
lovely.
were- see-
Yeah, those kids were amazing. It was really, and some of them actually worked on Mighty Ducks
Right.
as well as Sandlot. So it was really nice. And I got to know the parents and the moms and the siblings and all the stuff. It was really great. And it was really difficult and really challenging. And so I feel like I got thrown in very just thrown right into really complicated wardrobe and set stuff. And
Yeah.
so I'm really grateful for that because for me now as a designer, because I started as a stitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I did dyeing on a bunch of shows. I
Right.
did aging on a bunch
Right.
of shows. I did set for years, complicated sets, like I've just mentioned,
Right.
with all the moving parts. And then I was a supervisor briefly on some TV shows and things. Not all of it's on IMDb, which I'm not even putting it on there because it was before the internet.
Uh-huh.
And but so what makes me a better designer, and I'm really grateful for all those experiences because I know what my crew is going through.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I
You know
know,
what
I
you're
know
asking
what,
of them.
and I can jump in and help them with all the things that
Yeah.
need to be
Right.
done, and I can mentor them, and
Yeah.
and I just feel like I remember. I mean, there were plenty of times where, like, the designer would come on set and be like, "Why aren't you jumping in and helping and doing the thing?" And I'm like, "Well, because they just kicked me out, but you didn't see that part." But so when I come to my set and I observe what's happening, I'm really more aware of like the whole, like the big picture
Sure.
of what's going on. And I think that so for any younger people who are interested in the business, whether it's in your department or in my department or any department, to to really start from the bottom or at
Yeah.
least
If you
have the
can.
experience of working through so many of the different sub-departments and
Right.
positions within the department will make you a much better leader when you are the department leader,
Absolutely. I
you
think that's
know?
true that everybody in this industry should start off as a production PA, because you
Yeah.
get such a broad sense of everything that's going on.
I've really only PA'd
Absolutely.
on 2 jobs in my entire life, but I think it was
But you did it.
I
So,
did. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, some of my hardest, roughest days were as a set PA for sure. But
Yeah.
again, it also helps you define where you want to go from there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
climbing the ladder though into the department is like a huge thing too. Because I mean, even in the PMG, when we get people who apply that like all they've been doing is prop mastering, but it's like this small stuff, and
Right,
they're like, oh
right.
yeah, I'm a prop master now. It's like, I sure, but like go back and I would just like work under some people, like take some of the best and some of the worst from what you think is them and make your
Right.
it's going to only polish up your prop mastering in the long run. It's not
Yeah,
like
100%.
setting, you know?
And something like costume designing, I mean, again, your department, I mean, I'm always blown away by how many people are in the costume department, and how many different jobs there are, and we talk about it all the time in props. Like people have no idea really the amount of stuff that we have to take on as the prop department. But that's also true about the costume department in so many ways. People think, it's just clothes. How hard can it be? But I mean, again, especially on a show like Stick, for me watching you guys and what you went through on that show, because that's something I want you to talk about a little bit too, is the difference between working a feature doing costumes, being a costume designer, and doing an episodic television show, which I mean, it's such a huge beast. I mean, I just again started back on St. Denis, and we just finished episode 1, so now we're going in episode 2, and it's literally like the train leaving the station. You know what I mean? It's like, that what's coming now, okay? Because that first episode, you have all this time to get it ready, and then the second episode, you have 4 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and so again, I mean, talk about that, because on Stick was intense. I mean, thankfully, we only did 10 episodes because we probably all would have been dead by the end. But
Yeah, it was rough. It was difficult because I think that for all of us when we started that show. And I think I received like the first couple scripts or something before we
Right.
started shooting, at least the first handful of them. And so I felt like, oh, I kind of know it's going to be bigger than the year that the
Right.
first season that they did in Canada that
Yep.
we didn't work on. I knew that it was going to be more complicated, but I had already done some really, really complicated TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm just going to back up a second. So
Yeah.
my first TV series as a designer
Right.
was People versus OJ. That was
Wow.
Ryan Murphy
Yeah. Yeah.
and American Crime Story. It was the first.
That was your first design costume designer credit?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no, 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 no. It was my first television
television
series.
series. Got
Because I
it.
had done some pilots and things like that
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
design, and I had done features. I had done a whole bunch. I had designed features and all. I mean, I did a big feature with Julianne Moore and Woody Harrelson, and period, and 50s and 60s. I had a really good body of work at that point, but I had never done episodic television.
Right.
And this is what Chris was talking about is I had done complicated features. I had done features that are period that
Right.
where I built like for Julianne Moore. I did a movie with her called The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio, and
Oh,
I
beautiful.
built I built every single dress for her except
Yeah.
for two
And there
from
were a
scratch.
lot of dresses in that. I remember that was
Yeah, there were like
amazing.
45 dresses, and we
Yeah.
actually went from the 30s to the 80s, but it was
Hmm.
mostly in the 50s and 60s. But and with all her, and she had 10 children, and each child was played by
Right.
three different actors and a set of twins. And I
Insane.
dreamed up this wonderful idea that I was going to have. Oh, they don't have a lot of money. They're going to wear hand-me-downs, and then so then I'm like, oh, okay. So Margie wore this in when she was 12, but now Susie's going to wear this 5 years later
Wow.
when
Wow.
she's 12. And so it was just this super complicated. But again, apparently I had a lot of energy and I had a wonderful crew. And but so anyway, so I had done really complicated shows with a
Sure.
lot of moving parts,
Yeah.
with big, name actors and all the thing, but I had never done episodic television.
Yeah.
And so when I was hired to do the People versus OJ, I was so grateful to Ryan Murphy also for
Yeah.
giving me the chance because I had, it was I mean, I think I had a whole bunch of interviews and then I finally met him and he hired me on the spot. So he's a wonderful
He is.
creative person. Anyway, so People versus OJ, 10 episodes, 2,000 speaking parts costumes.
Lord.
2,000.
Wow.
There were episodes, of course we shot every episode in like, the usual 8 days or something.
Yeah.
Right.
There was an episode where I had 408 speaking costumes, period, all 90s, early 90s, in one episode. 408 costumes. I mean,
Wow.
it just was something, but I kind of didn't really know any better. So I just jumped in and I just did it. And I had a wonderful crew and I had to add crew as needed. And of course, there's all the law enforcement and the sheriffs and the horses and
Yeah.
the park police and the helicopter guys and the LAPD and the jury had to change 3 times a day. And there were 24 people on the jury initially. And so it was just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of costumes every week. Anyway, so we did that. I'm really proud of the work and built a ton of stuff. And, we had wonderful cast,
Right.
John Travolta, just wonderful. And I built, of course, I built a lot of stuff for him and Sarah Paulson and
Yep.
just a wonderful cast. And they were everybody was working their butts off and it shows on the screen. I mean, I think
Sure.
well, and that was like a ton of like Emmy nominations and stuff like that from that show. And so anyway, and so then after that, so during that, I got hired on to do the pilot for This Is Us.
Yeah.
And then I also did the pilot for River, was it Riverdale?
Riverdale and Young Sheldon as
Riverdale.
well, right?
I did Young Sheldon too.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember the in order. Anyway,
Right.
so
So
I
not
had to
even
make a
close
choice
to
because,
the same show either.
No, not at all.
yeah, I know. But so what happened is I did a pilot for another show and that got picked up and This Is Us got picked up. And so
Wow.
it's funny because I talked to my crew about it. I'm like, so I have this show and I have this show, and they both got picked up. That usually doesn't happen when you do a pilot. Who knows?
Right.
And my crew was like, oh yeah, let's do This Is Us. It's going to be so much easier. And then, of course, we find out that we're going to be spanning, like 80 years of this family life, and there's going to be 3, 4, 5 people playing each single character, and in one episode. And so this is, Chris, what you were saying earlier too, is like we'll get a script, and the 4 days later, we've got 2 weddings. 3 weddings. One of them is
Right.
in the 70s. One of them is a fantasy, and one of them is in the current day. And we're going to have some 1940s hospital scenes,
Right.
and we're going to have some 1914 people coming off of. So this is us. So my crew and I, we would always laugh laugh because I've had a lot of the same crew for many years, and we always laugh and say, "Oh yeah." So there will be some time where we have like 3 units
Right.
and span 50 years,
Yeah.
and they'd be like, "Yeah, let's just do that nice Dan Fogelman project. It'll be so much easier."
I know. It's
Which is
never
just
that
crazy. But
way.
anyway, so I'm really grateful for it. It was a wonderful experience. But so that was I mean, so I ended up doing really challenging shows for all the departments for I mean, the props on People versus OJ
Right.
was nuts. And the same on This Is Us. I guess the same on everything.
Yeah, that was Andy
And
Grant, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
Andy Grant.
Yeah.
And then on Stick, what you guys were doing, like
Yeah.
it well, and I think that this is a nice way we can segue to talking about how it's really important for our departments to work together
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
because there's so much crossover and there's so much communication that we need to do together
Right.
to create this sort of seamless, perfect art project that we're all working on this art project together.
Right.
And we're also in the trenches together,
And
and so
that's the key, right?
there's like a brotherhood, a sisterhood, there's like a camaraderie, that family feeling that you build when you work together with a crew and when you're all working really hard together. I feel like that's a really necessary, supportive thing, even emotionally, because
Right.
we all know what we're going through together and we can't
Yes.
really explain it to the outside world. Like,
No,
my
not
husband
even
hears
close.
what's going on, but he's not in the trenches with us. So
Sure.
but so I feel like that's been so important to me, and that's why I was so thrilled that you guys asked me to talk about it because my relationship with working with the prop department, the hair department, makeup department, of
Mm-hmm.
course, and the cinematographer and the production designer and set deck,
Right.
all of us having to work closely together.
Yes.
But what you guys do with us is a little more intimate with the actors, with their
Exactly.
bodies, and to be able to work together. I feel like not only is there this camaraderie and all the stuff that I was just talking about, but there's also communication
Yes.
together is so important because,
100%.
like, for instance, Chris, you'll remember, like, if when I'm having fittings, like, frequently when we do fittings, the actors are sometimes are coming in on their day off,
Right.
or sometimes they're having a rehearsal, or they might be on the lot and only have half an hour or something like
Yes.
this.
Yes.
That's when we contact you and say, "Hey, Chris,
We
we
got
got so and so coming in at one
Yeah.
o'clock. I know that he needs glasses and a watch and a
Yes.
wedding ring. Come up,
Yeah. Anything you want to
bring it
show,
on."
right? Yeah.
And so
Well,
I feel
and
like that's an important
yeah, and I
thing.
have to tell you, I appreciate that because I've worked with costume designers who, like, when their fittings are like, we don't want any disruptions at all. And, I need my time with the actor, and that's all. And if you want to do something afterwards, then you have to work it out with the ADs or whatever, So I really appreciated that from you on Stick that, whenever somebody was coming in, you gave us that option. We had your schedule, and it helps us to be able to find out what's the fitting schedule, so we know that we can bring anything we want to show at that point in time. Because again, on a TV show, you just don't have time. Otherwise, you're doing it on the day on the set, and that's never fun. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
because there people change their mind or whatever, or they don't like what you bring them. So being able to do that in a fitting, to bring stuff up to you guys so you can have it to show it and we could get answers and actually be in the room, because a lot of times we have to turn
Mhm.
stuff over to the costume department and just hope it goes well and see what happens, get pictures. But you came in and allowed us to, introduce us to the actors, and were
Mhm.
able to start a relationship with them early on, relatively to everything else, and be able to, like with Billy Zane, that was just such a perfect example, because Billy's very particular about what he wants to wear and things and how he wants to present himself. So it was really great for us to be able to get in there early with him and to talk to him about the watches he wanted to wear, with which costumes he wanted to wear that watch, and his glasses and how many different pair of glasses, and to get all
Yeah.
that in the works ahead of time was really helpful. So
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that. I mean, he was delightful, and I feel the same way. I just feel like I don't understand why there would be any purpose for not all getting together and doing it again like a group art project. But also, frequently, what you said I think is important too is that's when frequently you guys get to meet the actor
yeah,
off the set when they're not worried about we don't only
right,
have 5 minutes before they shoot or whatever it is. I think that that's really an important component is And we invite hair and makeup to come and do it. Like if
Mm-hmm.
they've never seen an actor, we'll tell them, and you want to see what her hair really looks like in person, because I'll send the pictures.
Right.
And I always do that, send pictures of tattoos and, show to help our brothers and sisters in all the different departments,
Sure.
your department, hair and makeup. And, we're frequently like, okay, let's take pictures of the tattoos and show the makeup artist what she needs to cover, or if they can clear it legally or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But for you guys, for the actor to show up on set, and doesn't even matter how famous or professional or experienced an actor is, I just feel like it's really nice for them in the whole process to meet these people like you guys in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when you approach them on the set with watches, they're not like,
Who are you?
I was just thinking about the lines I have to do, and I have to cry in this scene, and now I have
Yeah.
to try on watches. So I just feel like, I mean, I did work on shows where I didn't feel like there was so much communication, where I just observed. It wasn't my shows, of course,
Sure.
never, but where I observed as a costumer, as an assistant, I observed that there wasn't that much communication between the important department. All the departments are important, but and I just feel like that's just not how.
Right.
I mean,
No.
you don't get the best product that way. Like, and it's the same. It goes with the writers and the directors and the showrunners and everybody. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
we all are. Communication is super important, and asking the questions when we need to ask the questions, and really dissecting the material and knowing the story inside and out. Because I don't know about you guys, but actors frequently ask me, they want to know, how does this scene fit together with that scene? Like, wait a minute. So
Right.
I'm on the train, but then when I get off the train,
Right.
what am I doing? Wait, like, I just made that up, but
Sure.
just, I mean, so we need to know, you guys, all of us, but it's really important for us to understand the story
Yeah.
inside and out,
Absolutely.
and for all the things that are coming that we're not even necessarily fitting them for,
Yeah,
Right.
and
like,
between our two departments too, I think it's the biggest thing is like I feel like we're two of the main components, like with the director and building what the character is. So if we don't communicate and you're
Right.
building a certain look, but the prop master has a completely different idea or is going in this direction of like, oh, these glasses would be perfect for them, and they
Right.
get together and it doesn't look anything like it's supposed to go together because nobody communicated until the day, then I mean it's only something that can be accomplished when you're all in the room together and you're
Right.
matching the stuff together, and the actor can see it with the costume, you know what I mean? And any of those single components, it won't add up. So when you do it, you can all make magic together, and
Right.
then you have this collaborative thing that comes out to making the character a very special thing. Is going to help the actor with their performance.
absolutely. And I've had actors, I've had actors who've like even said in the press that when the costume and the props all came together, that's when they found their
Right.
character.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about really accomplished Academy Award
Right.
winning experienced actors who say, that's when I find the character.
Yeah.
Is with the costumes, the props, hair and makeup as well. That's because they need to go on set and not even think about any
Right.
of the stuff. So that's why I feel like it's also super cost effective, time effective,
Yes.
and better for everybody, including the actors, especially, that we all work together in advance. I mean, I
Yes.
just can't believe that there's some people who don't want to work together in advance.
Yeah.
Like, who does
No,
that?
it's
That doesn't
crazy.
serve anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, we're all doing the same thing. Why would we?
Right.
It-
And we
yeah.
have to do as much in advance as possible, because on the day there's always things that happen. So anything that we could do in advance is only going to help the cause.
Yeah, the amount of times costumes have saved me by getting a photo ID photo or a
Right.
badge
Oh, yeah.
photo ahead of time.
Yes,
It's like to get that
exactly.
graphic. I was
All
like,
the
I
time.
need to
All
get
the
them in
time.
ID. Just snap a photo.
100%.
I don't
I'll
care
take
at
your
this point. I
I'll
don't
take your
care.
fitting photo. Just give me something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to put a picture on there. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Or-
I've done that so many times. And also, you know what else, you guys, that I usually delegate one person in my department to oversee this, is when all of a sudden they're like, oh, she's unpacking her suitcase.
Yes.
Let's have some clothes that she would
Yep,
be wearing
yep.
in
100%.
the suitcase.
Yep.
Or wait, she's wearing a red bathing suit next week. Let's have the red bathing suit in the suitcase. And so that's an important place where we need to work together as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my last show, I went into it with like that in mind because there was like a big thing where the kid had like everything specifically. He was OCD about how his suitcase and all his clothes was like packed and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, I know you guys are like, it's all the stuff that's going to fit him. I was like, we'll take this out of my budget, get a double of all of that. That way we don't need to worry about it on the
Right.
day, and we'll keep it with the suitcase at all times, and then we'll be great. And they're like, oh, that's fantastic. And then that working together, it was like, okay, that's a huge thing that nobody has to worry about, nobody has to track down,
Right.
and we have ready to go. Like just even little
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Yeah.
on Stick, we had a character who was actually designing clothing in
Yeah.
the show. And we had a bunch of scenes.
Oh,
where,
really?
Yeah, I know that was
That's
so-
specific. Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah.
really hard on Hala.
yeah.
I know because
Surprise,
they
surprise.
kept changing what her design was, and it was. I know she went through hell. So, but for us, there were scenes where she was actually working on her sewing machine, or she was in her apartment and she had stuff laid out, and again, Hala, she gave me all the fabric that we needed for everything, that she was working on, so all these samples, and just. Again, we would come upstairs and she had all laid out on the rack, everything that we needed for that scene. So, because we were like, well, we don't know what she's making. I have no idea what that's going to be, and that was a beautiful collaboration for us to be able to do that.
That was really wonderful. We loved working with you guys. You were so wonderful about that. And to be able to share, it was like specific, like laces and trims and
Yeah.
sports trims and certain colors, like a bolt of certain
Right.
fabric that we saw somebody in the fashion show wearing pants made out of it. But then we had the bolt and we're like, take the bolt. And or
Right.
maybe that was for Step Deck. I can't remember. But yeah, that to me, okay, so I want to add another element to it. Not only is it the way that it should work, because it's good for all the departments, it's good for the actors, it's good for the budget, it's
Yeah.
good for time and the shoot days, it's good for all the things. It's also, and also really good for the look, but it also, for me, that's part of the rewarding element of it, because I feel like we all work, you guys, all of us, 12 hours, 15. I mean, I'm glad if it's only 12 hours.
Yeah, I was
because
going to say,
we
there's no
work
way you do 12.
after when they're not even shooting. And so for me, I feel like when after doing a week of 15-hour days and just working and working and working and just doing our best and always doing our best and giving it our all. But then there are those moments where I walk on set and I see all the elements together. I see the
Right.
actor with their props and their costumes and the set and the lighting and the everything coming together. I get such a feeling of like deep
Right.
satisfaction to me. I
Yes.
feel like that makes it, it's like I've actually used this analogy before because I was trying to describe this to somebody a while back, and it's sort of like it's sort of like akin in my mind, maybe akin to childbirth, right? Like so when you get the movie or the TV show, you're like, oh yay, I'm gonna have a baby, it's fantastic. And then you go through labor and you're like, oh my God, this is really hard. What am I doing?
Right.
This is really, really hard. And then you have the baby and you love the baby so much and the baby's so light and you're like, oh yeah, I could do that again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so I
Exactly.
felt like that was sort of
It's
an
so
analogy
true.
for after all of our hard work when we show up on set and we
Right.
see all the elements work together.
Yes.
And it's just so rewarding deeply for me and it makes our work worth it,
Yeah, because again, anybody on the outside that would hear or experience what we go through on a day-to-day basis, again, especially on a show like Stick, because I just want to bring it up that, the writing on that show was impeccable. It was in the acting and
extraordinary.
all the actors and everybody were great. The production on that show was brutal. I mean, it was really hard. And again, we talk about working in the trenches. When you're on a show like that where you're not getting a lot of support from production, every department and every department head has to come together, and somehow we always do. We always come together to pull it off in spite of production sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and there was odd scheduling.
Yeah.
I know that some of the cast were frustrated because of the scheduling stuff. And so yes, for us to work together, it's almost like we had our own little production
yes,
team going on between you and me and other departments where we
100%.
had to
And you would think that,
make our way.
why would you want to do that
Yeah.
again, but like Hala says, you see the final product and you see the success of your work and your labor and your collaboration. And it's such a beautiful, fulfilling experience that's why we do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because for that very reason, obviously sometimes you work on a show and you work really hard and the show's really bad, and then you just kind of try to put it in the rearview mirror. But it is, 'cause again, women talk about childbirth. It's like you forget how hard it was, It is like
Yeah.
by nature that happens because otherwise a woman would never have another baby,
Right.
But so it's a really good analogy because that's kind of how I feel too. Again, you think about what you went through to make that show, and you think that's brutal. Why do I want to do that again? But you do it because the result is so
It's
good.
also something about creating something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when the
Yeah.
show, like you can have a miserable or feel like you're having a miserable time, but then you're still creating something. So when you stop and you have nothing going on, you're
Right.
like, I'm really bored. I'd rather be miserable creating something because I was doing something with my hands and
Right.
I felt so productive.
That's why
but
you just
stressed
built a
out.
house in your backyard.
It is why I built a little
Totally.
shit in my house.
I felt the same way. I'm like, I can't redo my closets and my pantries yet again.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I need,
Exactly.
I want something a little juicier, a little more challenging, like what our jobs are. Yeah, I love talking about this with you guys because it's just, especially like for people on the outside, we do get misunderstood, and many of the departments are misunderstood by people who are not in the business, but also by people who are in the business. I mean, I've
Right.
had plenty of questions. I've had plenty of people, even like DPs, say like, "Oh, how hard can it be? It's just clothes." And I'm like,
Well,
"It's
talk about
it's
that and
custom made
enlighten us
spacesuits
about
that are
that.
NASA specs.
I
What are
hate
you
when
talking
people
about?"
say that about any department. It's
No,
like, how
I
hard
know.
can it be? You're just pushing record on a box.
Right.
It's like you could
Well,
say
that's-
that about any
yeah.
department if you really can sim. But if you put them in the position, let's see how easy it is.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, enlighten us a little bit. Talk about that a little bit. Like, again, on Stick, we did like 4 or 5 different tournaments, full on golf tournaments with everybody. And Scott Bauer did
Yeah.
a golf show as well. And before I started Stick, I called him and I said, Scotty, what do I need to know? He said, well, how on any show you have background and some people have some props and some people don't have any props at all. He said on a golf show, everybody has multiple props. Okay, because there's all these officials, there's these golfers, and everybody has to have everything, and there's so many things involved in it. And the same is true with costumes. Like I knew that when we did some of these big tournaments out at the country clubs, you go to base camp, and you guys had a whole city built there, of like, I mean, there was probably 12 or 15 different easy ups, and there was things happening in every single one of those easy ups. So talk about that, because I myself don't even know what everything was going on in all of those tents.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was a very challenging thing that we sort of started building and developing as we got into the show, an episode or two. What we needed to do, because every tournament has its own logo, its
Right.
own name,
Yeah.
its own color scheme,
Oh, fun.
Right.
and so the officials, of course, sometimes they would have to wear patches that signify what their job is, what their
Right,
position is. Sometimes
right.
it's just guys in sport coats, sometimes it's suits. But then there's all the staff
Yes.
behind the scenes at a tournament. And there's all the staff at the country club because there's
Right.
always, if it's held at a country club, that's one set of uniforms and a color palette. So we would have to build a color palette for the country club.
Right.
Let's say they're wearing green or whatever. And then there's the tournament,
Right.
the
US
all
Open or
the
whatever.
volunteers and the caddies and the bibs, everything custom colors, custom printed, custom embroidered. Some people wear visors, some people wear baseball caps. So every tournament was super, super complicated. And then, of course, with sometimes hundreds of extras, spectators, in addition to all the staffers of all the various kinds of staffers,
Right.
the greeters who greet the players when they come, all the hundreds of people that we would have to dress for each tournament, not even including, also
cast.
including the civilians who are there as fans,
Right,
who are watching
right.
the game. And also being conscious of that these people are going to be working outside in the sun for,
Yeah.
hours and hours at a time. And so for me, we haven't talked about safety, but for me, safety is always a primary concern as well. And I take that into account for our actors. Like I'll frequently be like, well, let's make sure that the actors have a hat as part of their costume
Right.
because Mama's going to be standing in the sun for 5 hours doing her scene over and over and over again. And she's going to get sunburned and hot and then it's not going to matter. I mean, separate from safety, it's also, anyway. But so,
Sure.
I mean, there's all these considerations that we have to take into account. But so on Stick, It was really complicated. And what we discovered is after the first tournament, we discovered very quickly, and the line producer was actually helpful in this, and she suggested we should have a supervisor just for golf
Right.
because it was massive with the just the amount. And also remember, Chris, that you had to deal with this too, I'm sure, and Set Deck had to deal with this in our department. Um, the time that it takes the legal, like the showrunner, for instance,
Yes.
the art department and the graphic artist would create a series of logos
Right.
for a tournament. And then the showrunner and the writers, they would weigh in. And I think the studio was also weighing in on
Yes.
what they want this fictional logo to be
Right.
for the big tournament because we need to print it and we need to print it, we need to embroider it, we need to get all the polo
Yeah.
shirts and
Yes.
colors, we
Yeah.
need to it's not an overnight process. You don't go to the store
Right.
and buy 50 red polo shirts and embroider them overnight. You know what I
Right.
mean? But so there was a lag time. That was a difficult thing for us too, is because there's a lag time when the showrunner would choose the artwork that he was interested in. I think then what happened is that the studio would want to weigh in. And
Yes.
so frequently that would push us to right to the very edge of it not even being possible
Right.
to do all this custom stuff, you know? And so when we added Lori DeLapis, the golf supervisor, that helped a lot because she could handle specifically working with the artwork and
Right.
the ordering and the printing and the embroidery. And that was really and had the whole team of people that fit those people. It was really, it was so much of a bigger, Chris, it was so much of a bigger show than I think that we knew that we were getting into.
100%. I was like, it's a
You
little
know,
golf show. Huh.
A little golf show.
right. I mean, I
Well,
thought
from season
I know it was
one.
like a
Yeah.
golf show.
Yeah.
I was yeah, I thought, oh, we're gonna be in the fresh air. It's gonna be lovely. It's Owen Wilson. He's delightful. You
Yeah.
know, it's gonna be terrific. And then it's all of a sudden this, you know, this really quite
Well,
Sisyphean
sure. And then we also did
task.
a lot of flashback stuff into the
Yes.
80s, and that was also super challenging as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But
That's my jam. I got trained in that on This Is Us. But
yes.
but
You,
again, having enough crew is key.
it is.
And for all of us communicating together is key and
Right.
is so important. And so I feel really grateful. I'm so grateful that it was you and your team on that show. I mean, I've had the good luck to work with wonderful, you know, prop departments and Andy
Mm-hmm.
Grant and all those folks and everything for years. So I've never had I mean, I feel like I've always worked together with
Yeah.
the various departments, but I've observed when I was a costumer, like I said, I've observed where that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it.
Well,
But
sure.
so it was a really difficult show for us, and it was bigger than any of us thought. I think it was bigger than production, and I think the ADs and the line. I think it just was bigger. It just mushroomed, and it got bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And I think they budgeted it probably. I'm just guessing because I've been around for 30 some years. I think they budgeted it as a standard, like with a template, like with a
Right.
standard show, and then they had to keep going in, and we had to keep going in and adjusting our budgets because
Yeah.
it's like, well, now we have 500 people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we need to be flexible.
Yeah, it got
you know?
exponentially bigger from season one to
Yeah.
season two. Way more bigger
Oh,
tournaments and all of that. So I
yeah.
don't. They probably didn't anticipate that. But I want to talk about a little bit more about too the collaboration that we have to do for like specific things that with costumes and props, like when you have to build a pocket that fits something that
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
that the prop is like, oh, well, we didn't know it was going to be that big, or it's got to go in a purse, or, or we have to build in something into this costume for stunts, because
Or to hire a rig or a wire for
Right.
like the lightings for the prop, the
Yeah,
battery,
exactly.
and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So do you have experience doing that? I'm sure.
Well, yes, everything you said and more. I think, Chris, we did have to build a pocket. I mean, I've had to put pockets into completely fitted wedding gowns that
Right.
are
Wow.
like a sheer lace.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
because she had to pull something out of her pocket, a prop out of her
Right.
pocket. And so, you don't want to put these big giant pockets on
Sure.
a very
Did you have to
fitted,
make that make sense for the story?
Yeah, well, it was part of the story. It was part of the humor. That was on another show. But
Yeah.
but so for us, Chris, I think that we did have it where we had to do we have to have somebody pulling a phone out of a vest pocket or pulling it out of a
Right.
uniform pocket. And I think what in that case, in my experience, what we do is we collaborate,
Yeah.
we talk, we get the garment or what we think is going to be the garment, and we look at the prop. If it's a phone and it's a big one, or if it's
Right. A gun.
whatever the prop is going to be,
Sure.
then my stitchers can build that into the costume so that it's hidden and it doesn't reveal whatever it is that
Right.
we're going to reveal. And so we did that on Stick, but I just can't remember. It was
Yeah,
something.
I know. There was something, and I can't remember
There was a
exactly what it
pocket,
was.
and somebody had to pull something out of their pocket, and it wasn't a golf ball. It was something I can't remember
Right.
what it was. But that's where it's really nice for our departments to work together and our stitchers to know you and be familiar with you and your people and everybody. And so we can be like, oh yeah, props is I'm going to be in fittings. I can't be here.
Right.
Props is bringing the prop. Let's build him a pocket. We've got fabric. Let's just do it. Let's help our
Right.
brothers and sisters out on
Right.
this one.
Which again,
And
preemptively
that happens a lot.
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Again,
otherwise, you're
we're all
doing
the
it
same
on
art
the
project.
day.
And glasses, and another thing that I
Yeah.
feel like, in addition to the other points that we made in terms of our collaborative working together, that is all super duper important for all the things, is also, and Billy Zane was a great example that you mentioned, because I feel like, because he had very strong opinions about his character, and they
Sure
were
did.
wonderful, wonderful
Yeah, it looked
suggestions. I
great.
feel like he improved my work tremendously because he's super creative and
And he's
he's
got such
super
a great sense of
stylish.
style. Yeah.
And he just understands the character, and he was just lovely. He made us sit down and have lunch with him. He's like, "Oh no," he's like, "Where do you have lunch?" I said, I don't always get lunch, but
That's right.
I'm at my desk." And he said, "Oh no, 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 no." And he made us go down and sit down at a table and sit down for 20 minutes and have lunch. And I
Right.
just thought, wow, he's this. Anyway,
Nice.
that's just a little sidebar. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to do with our
yeah.
department. But he just was like, "No, no, no, no. You guys you're gonna sit down and you're gonna pause and you're gonna eat your lunch like a normal person." Anyway, but so a great example is when we don't even know the direction yet,
Right.
where an actor might be taking their character, where the showrunners and the directors and everybody would be in agreement, like, "Oh yeah, it's great that he's like super stylish or has a thing." Then of course we need to share fitting photos with you and have you see him and talk to him in person, because he can't wear his glasses. Everything has to be organic to the
Right.
character for the acting and also for the final look of the film. And so that's another reason, besides getting to meet the actors and getting the work done and all the things, is there are times where in fact, this has happened a number of times, where an actor sort of wants to lean into like, oh, maybe I'm like a little bit of a vintage clothing guy. Maybe I want to be
Right.
a little bit nerdy. Maybe I want to wear maybe like some kind of 50s kind of glasses or something like this. Who do I need to tell immediately?
Yeah.
Like text from the fitting, like,
Right. Exactly.
prop department,
Right.
so and so wants to give himself a little bit of a throwback look. So so we need to, so again, then so that kind of thing. I mean, that happens all the time. And
Yeah. And
yeah,
that-
I'm just trying to
That's
think of
what was
all the
great
different-
about, again, you with Billy. When Billy decided that he had the specific look for for glasses that he wants, you texted me and you said, "Billy's up here right now talking about glasses, so you might want to come up here and talk to him," which was awesome because I got to go up and have the conversation with him directly, and exactly what he wanted. And it turned out it was perfect because he was like, "Hey, do you know Russ Campbell?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I know Russ Campbell." He goes, "He's a friend of mine in my neighborhood." He goes, "I'll just go down and talk to Russ and he'll hook you up." I'm like, "Great." So I could call Russ. I'm like, "I'm working with Billy Zane." He goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "Don't worry about it. Billy and I are cool." And he literally just like went down to his shop and spent like, I don't know, 3 hours down there picking out glasses. I'm like, "Great, just make them happen."
Sure. Yeah.
It worked
That's
out
wonderful.
perfectly. But
And I'm sure you've encountered this too many times, and I think we may have done it with Mark Maron, where the actor actually themselves, they need to wear glasses for their
Yeah.
vision correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark
Yes.
Maron's
And so-
like blind.
yeah, we
So
did. We had to do
of
that.
course we need to, get on that soon, and you need to get on that soon and as soon as possible.
Right. Because you
Because
got
if you need to have the anti-reflective prescription lenses
Yeah.
put into the,
yeah,
right.
it is
The
a process.
turnaround is a little bit
It's
yeah,
sketchy.
I always hate when they're like, "Oh yeah, they need corrective lenses." It's like, okay, so this is going to take a little bit
Yeah.
longer, and then all right, what about sunglasses? Because we got to get corrective lenses for the sunglasses that they're wearing, whatever this is, and that's going to take even
Yes.
longer than the regular glasses
Exactly.
will.
And you got to get their prescription, and sometimes their prescription's not right, and so you got to contact their optometrist.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that. And then on this show also, the DP was like, "I want the lenses to be not just blue, but Zeiss blue."
Zeiss blue.
Zeiss blue.
Yeah, the new thing I started doing is just having send me the sample pack with
Yeah.
like all like 8 different shades and throw it in front of the DP. Which one do you want?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, it was intense.
And that becomes difficult when you're actually shooting and the location's an hour and a half away and up on
Oh
Turtle
my
Mountain.
God. Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, see, well, this is a great example of what we were talking about earlier, where people that don't work in our departments, they don't understand some of this fine, detailed, time-consuming work that we have to do. Like, oh, it's just clothes. It's like it's actually not just clothes. I just had to make a wedding dress in triples and with pockets.
Right.
So, from scratch in 4 days. It's like,
Yes.
and it's just what you were just saying about the glasses and the lenses and the things come up like that, and it just seems like an easy ask, but it's really not. The thing is, this is another thing that I've thought of a number of times in my career. I've thought, it's really one thing to creatively sit at one's desk and think about what the character needs or what to add to a scene. And this is something that, I mean, like I do it in prep, like when I'm just thinking of what a character is. But also what I find is that with writers and directors and showrunners and people, because their work it's collaborative and it's time consuming. And I don't know how to do it. I'm always in awe of the Stick. The writing was just extraordinary.
Amazing.
But sometimes to make these asks at the last minute, because what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say if you're stationary and you're working and you're dreaming up creative ideas, it's one thing to dream it up and say, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could have the blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's another thing to be able to build it and create it, because for us, it's boots on the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Searching the whole town for, like, we needed, at one point they wanted to have a red leather jacket and it was going to work in a day and we needed to have
Right.
multiples and they wanted
Yeah.
a red leather jacket. All of a sudden, out of the blue, red leather jacket. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. So we literally were calling stores that we know, can you open up early for us? We're going to like warehouses downtown. I had 5 people fan out across the
Yeah.
city
Yeah.
to try to find this red leather jacket. And then, and hope, like every style we could, costume houses, like all the things, we pulled out all the stops, all the favors, everything.
Right.
And so I wonder after something like that, and then we had to age it on
Yeah,
the day that it was working,
sure.
of course, which, is a process to do it correctly
Yeah.
and to make it, real and natural, and it's leather and it's red and the whole thing.
Right.
But I feel like that might be an example of where somebody had an idea for a reason
Right.
to put a red jacket in there. But on our end, when it's boots on the ground, it's not an overnight process.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we did
Yeah.
pull it off. Of course, Chris, as you know, we did pull it off, and the
Yeah.
actress was shocked. She's like, "What? Why am I wearing a red leather jacket? I don't even know."
Right.
So,
And the
but,
hat, the cowboy hat that you guys that came over the
I forgot
weekend,
about. I blocked that one out. That one I blocked out in childbirth.
and it was literally a story point that they changed over the weekend,
Wow.
and it was something that was
Yeah.
going to happen one day, and then it was going to have a reoccurrence, and it became an arc in the story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you guys you did it over the weekend, right? I mean, it was nuts.
Yes, we did. Well, we did it over the weekend, and we also did it. We called on favors too, and again, I had to have my entire team, like everybody, the
'Cause it's
sisters, like people
period.
who go to
Yeah.
shop,
You
like
really
every
need to
single
have
person in my
friends.
department had to fan out and go to every single costume house at like 7 in the morning, which is not even early,
Right.
and for like the 10 a.m. fitting to work like the next morning at
Right.
5 or whatever. But we needed multiples.
Yes.
You can't just have one. You can't just have one
Right.
important prop. So to find vintage hats that are aged,
Yeah.
that have the right crown and everything for an actor, you have to find 20, 25. It's like trying glasses on somebody. You don't
Right.
know what's going to work.
No.
I hadn't even met the actor yet.
Right.
Or maybe I had, and then we found out on that one. So we pulled out the stops and we pulled it off magically.
Amazing.
And then we find out that, and we found it from Transpo, like, oh yeah, but in the convertible. I'm like, convertible? Because the character with the cowboy hat was scripted as driving a pickup truck.
Right. Right.
And so then all of a sudden it was a convertible with the top down.
Right. Right. All right. Oh my God.
And it's the hat that's going to fly off. And there's a driving double who's doing some of the driving,
Right.
and the actor who's doing the thing. So you see how the layers of complexity just keep getting
Insane.
built in and built in, and I understand when the writers have a terrific idea that they want to turn into a major story point for the arc of this whole character, and they want to bring it back in the future, and it's all these things. I understand that that's a process too, like where they build their creative ideas, but I like it when people understand,
Yeah.
and from production and everybody on down the line, there's a reason people are getting overtime. There's a reason that we need an extra ager, or there's a
Right.
reason that we need all these things because we are producing miracles overnight to tell the story, and it's completely unexpected stuff. Red leather jacket, cowboy hat,
Yeah.
so convertible car. We didn't even, you know, that was okay. So that's an example of communication too. I feel like because that for me, I feel like that's the most important part for us is always being in communication with each other, with our departments, but with other departments and with production, and all the departments. And thank goodness that we had that my supervisor Eric Johnson was
He was
communicating
great.
with Transpo, and they just said, "Oh, by the way, the car's convertible," to him just because he was talking to them about some, I don't know what, he was communicating about something else. And then we had to build in the strap that holds the head, and we
Yeah.
have to build in the tighter thing, and we have to put the hooks in that can hold in the hair, and then there's a wig,
Mm.
and then we told the hair department, like, oh, the
Yep.
wig's gonna fly off, So anyway, so communication. And I feel like it's super important. I feel like when we have people in production or in the AD department or in the casting, any department that doesn't think it's important to communicate these story points to your department, my department, art department, hair, makeup, this is where you end up with very expensive, time-consuming mistakes.
Right.
Because if we didn't, because they just didn't think that there was any need for it. And that's why more is more in the communication.
100%.
And I feel like we were always told that no, there's only gonna be one double, there's only one double. And we were like, there's not only gonna be one double for this child. We had a bunch of kids, right, in Stick.
Yeah.
So they hire the actor who can do the acting and looks the part. Then they hire his swing double, a kid that similar in stature, similar, never the same, who can do the golf swing and the maneuvers.
Mm.
And then they hire a photo double for when the kid times out. Oh, gotta go. He's
Yep.
only gonna
Yep.
be here
Yep.
for a
Yep.
certain amount of hours. And then it's like, oh, and there's going to be another swing double because that swing double is actually not going to be available for the whole show.
Yes.
So what has started happening is, and I think that you guys are probably like this too, is like once you have one experience on the beginning of a show where you realize that the communication's not really happening, like I think people think it's going to be cheaper if they don't tell us there are no
Yeah.
doubles or
Right.
something.
Or
Like I don't understand
something.
why people wouldn't tell us this. And so what we do, and I'm sure you guys do, is we have to extrapolate. We have to be
100%.
psychic,
Yeah.
and we have to
Yeah.
predict.
Yep.
Oh no,
And you
there's
ask
gonna
a
there
lot
are
of
Yeah.
more
questions.
kids.
I feel like kids are the hardest part too because on my last movie, the kid had glasses, or whatever, and we're going through it. It's like, okay, this 10-year-old does, but we also have a second unit that's going around the country that they have a body double for him. He also needs corrective lenses too. So we have to get the same pair of glasses for him. We need at least 3 for the main character in case something happens. Plus he wears sunglasses, so we need one with theirs. He also has a body double for when he times out that's with us, and he has a stunt double. Oh, and the DP wants the stand-in to be wearing the same glasses. So it's like we spent like $5,000
Yeah,
just on the
it's
same
nuts.
pair of glasses for this one kid. I think Paula give me like renamed the glasses after him because they're like, this is the most of these kind of glasses we made. So we're just calling the actor's name is Indy. We're calling it the Indy glasses now.
No
We're like,
doubt.
okay. And it's like, what? Like I've never made this many glasses for one character before.
Right.
That's just the same pair too. It gets insane and how much expensive that gets and how many. It was 3 different prescriptions. It was crazy.
No, I know that's one of the worst parts of the job is glasses, prescription glasses, and AR coding. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of time and
Yeah.
effort and money,
Yeah, and then the little sister, like the director, I think 2 days before we're about to shoot, goes, after already approved her glasses, did everything, goes, you know what? I've been staring at her headshot a lot, and I really like her personal glasses she's wearing in the headshot. Can we get those? Which is like a discontinued Frozen pair that like doesn't exist anymore. That are like scouring eBay. And I was like, listen, if I buy you a pair of glasses, can I take yours, rip out the lenses?
Yes.
It's like, okay, we'll figure this out. But God, you do not know this
Yeah,
request. You don't understand what you're
Exactly.
requesting right now.
That happened to us
Yes.
on Stick with Lily. Lily came in to a fitting with her sunglasses, and they look great on her.
Yeah.
They were absolutely beautiful, but they were vintage. And I was scouring eBay trying to find a
Right.
pair. I found one pair, but I couldn't find a backup.
Yeah.
So I said, Lily, I'll tell you what, you give me your glasses and I have this other pair that's tortoiseshell. They're not black. And at the end of the show, I'll give them both to you.
Yeah.
I'll give yours back and I'll give you the other pair if you just let me have your glasses for
Yeah.
the season. She did. And of course, she was a total sweetheart.
Yeah.
So
She
that,
was
that
wonderful.
worked
She was
out.
so wonderful. I loved fittings with her, and we'd have these wonderful fittings, and she would jump around and she would be like, "This is the best fitting I've ever had, and
I
I
know.
love
She had
everything.
so
Oh my
much
God, you
energy.
guys, this is so great!" And la 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 la, and all this happy, 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 happy. And I'd send off the pictures. Of course, I have to call them and crop them and pick the best ones and the la 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 la. And there was an agreement about who, so then the various voices would chime in and we'd have to refit her. And the same thing happened with the kid. Oh, I'm going down the rabbit hole on Stick. So many times the
It was quite
like
the
the
rabbit
actors,
hole.
oh boy, down I go. I am going to remain politic, but it happened with the character of Santi as well,
Right.
where the actor, where I was told all this stuff that he's going to be like this, he's going to wear this, he's going to wear this, he's moving it in the second season. This is what he's going to do. We made a big presentation for Apple.
Yes.
Remember that big presentation we had to do for Apple?
Yes.
For all the departments and the various things, and with all the photos and the images that we had a fitting with him, and we put in all the stuff that we were told that that they want to do and Apple wants to do, and blah blah blah. And then the kid comes to the first fitting and he thinks that somehow I've imagined all of this stuff, that I dreamed it up, and he marches down to the showrunner and says, "The costume designer doesn't get it. Why is she putting me in these like pro golf clothes?" And I'm like, "I don't know from golf pants. What I mean, I just got
Right.
so that was a big kerfuffle. And then the kid, listen to me, Santi, wonderful actor, wonderful young person. He then realized like, oh right, I don't on Stick, I didn't really get to make the final choices. I'm accustomed in my experience, I've been when I work on a show for years, when we go season after season or just with people that we
Sure.
have worked with before, I'm accustomed to having a level of trust
Yeah.
where they trust what I'm doing and they look at the pictures and they see all the stuff, but
Right.
they're not micromanaging me on every single point and every
Right.
single thing. We'll have the meetings. I'll send pictures. We'll talk about it. Great. Off to the races. Let's do this. And I'll still send pictures of important things. But there are times where even Ken Olin and other, and Fogelman, those guys are like, don't even send us pictures unless it's something important.
Sure.
We've got this. So I was accustomed to being able to, and that saves money and it saves time and other things.
Yes. They just trust you.
Yeah, trust me and the actors, and we work it out.
Right.
Especially once you get into the show and you know the characters. And on Stick, it was a new show, and every time you start a new show, you're building a whole new world from scratch.
Correct.
So there's that, and it's
Well-
always a learning curve for
Yeah.
everybody.
And
And it,
go ahead.
and sometimes you don't know where you're going to land. I mean,
Right.
it's happened to me plenty of times where I have an idea.
Sure.
Oh, this character, she's going to be an edgy, cool punk rock girl, and then I meet the actor. I'm like, does not work on
Yeah.
her.
Right,
Let's
right.
make her
Yeah.
into a country girl or something. I
Yeah.
just made that completely
and
up.
that's the rub right there, is that you're a creative person, the showrunner's a creative person, the actor's a creative person, and now the studio's got their and Stick in particular. I know you dealt with it because you just said it, but we also dealt with it on our side, which was trying to get everybody on the same page,
Yeah.
and Apple in particular is very hands-on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we dealt with that with the golf clubs. It's like, what brand of golf clubs are these actors going to have? Because I have to get 3 sets
Yeah.
of them for everybody.
Yeah.
And it went back and forth where the showrunner and the people from Apple were butting heads about which clubs they were going to use. Because, of course, Apple was trying to get a tie-in, a buy-in of some sort. And he was like, I don't care about the buy-in. I want these clubs. These are the
Yeah.
clubs I want. So it came
Yeah.
down for us where we just got 3 sets of clubs from both brands, okay, just to make sure we had it covered. And that seemed to be a lot of what was going on, where they just weren't both on the same page. There were creatives from the studio that were having discrepancies with the creators of the show. And so
Yes,
that
and
made
of
us
course, yes, and I noticed that too, and I noted that was going on, and I felt really bad for a showrunner because he's on set every day, and he's
Yeah.
written all the episodes, and he's invented these characters.
100%. That
You know,
guy
he
never
created them.
slept.
He knows them better than anybody. And of
Yep.
course, things are going to change as the actors breathe life into them and as we start shooting. So that's why we are always so flexible. Like, oh, we got to change it. Oh, whatever, fine, we can change
Right.
it because
Yeah.
we know that it's a process as we
100%.
start building this new world with these new characters. But that's why I felt bad. I felt like with all of the stuff that the showrunner had going on, all the responsibility that he had
A lot.
to everybody
Yeah.
and the actors and the cast for him to then having to spend extra time to have these approvals from Apple,
Yeah,
I'm sure that just took a lot of time that he didn't even really have,
absolutely. No.
And so that filters down to all of us where
Yeah.
if the casting, well, it also what happens with casting too, is when the studio wants to approve the casting, the showrunners probably they're like, oh no. I mean, I've heard it so many times, even on that show, where it's like, oh no, we picked the guy. We know who we want. We want so and so. We saw his reel last week and we want to hire him. And be working the next day. I can't talk to him yet because I'm waiting for the studio to say, oh yeah, okay, he's the guy. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? So that
Sure.
it happens on like in every happens with costumes and props and art department and set deck and casting where when there is when with all the cooks in the kitchen, it slows the process down. And on a
Yeah.
movie, you have a little more time usually, not
Well,
always,
that's
but
the
you have a
thing.
little more
And
time.
movies are
That and
so much
clearances.
different. And clearances,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Apple
So that's why we
clearances are
all
the
need to be
worst.
together, and that's why we all need to give each other some grace too. Like, if people are like, "Oh, so and so was cranky today," or this, it's like,
Oh,
we don't know what our brothers go
Yeah.
through. Like,
how
you know what
on?
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's give each other some grace because there's so much going on behind the scenes
Yes.
that we don't
We
even
had to
know
talk
about.
each other off the cliff several
Yeah.
times during that show for sure. Before we wrap it up, I just wanted to touch on one other subject real quick because it came apparent to me talking to your crew on Stick. The pay that your guys' contracts and your pay are different than the rest of the crew, right? I mean, I know
Yeah.
that like some of your people on your crew were like making less than office PAs. So
Well, okay, so there's a whole push in my guild, in the Costume Designers Guild, and there has been for a number of years about pay equity, pay
yeah,
parity with departments, and actors and producers and people were starting to get involved because costume designer and assistant costume designer we don't make overtime,
right,
and because we are responsible for the look of it, and because I'm the person that I am, where I'm not going to do anything unless I do my best,
of
and I don't
course,
want everything has to be perfect. And yeah, maybe it's I torture myself a little bit by I work every weekend and I do it because I want the work to be perfect.
right,
And I might not run around in stores, but I'm certainly going to do like breakdown scripts and do everything that I can on a weekend to help my crew for the following week, to help my shoppers and whatever needs to be done, and to help me and my assistant designer get on top of all the things. And I do that willingly.
right.
I know I'm not supposed to. I know that they don't want to pay me to work on a weekend,
Hmm.
but I still have this. And I think that sometimes on some shows that I'm not saying this happened on Stick, but
Sure.
on some shows they know damn well
Yes.
that I'm going to work my butt off 24/7, 7 days a week to make
Right.
it perfect. And so they just like, nope, we're not going to pay you a 6 day. Don't work. Just don't work. And I'm like, well, if I don't
Right.
work,
Yeah.
we don't have the dancing girls on elephants on Monday morning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that just it depends on who we're working with, but that just kind of sometimes can fall on deaf ears. But the pay equity and parity, the assistant costume designer makes less than every single person on the crew per
That's
hour
crazy.
and does not make overtime and usually doesn't get a kit rental, maybe a little bit for her
Right.
computer. And we're working on that, trying to change that. And that did increase a little bit, but it's when you look at the union minimums
Mm.
for a television show,
Hmm.
the person on the very bottom of like 30 people below craft service, the next person after craft
Right.
service, the assistant costume designer. And the assistant costume designer has so much responsibility. And like really, because the assistant costume designer, at least the way I work, is a department leader.
Yeah.
That person has to do fittings and go to set when I can't do like that person is a department leader, the costume designer, the assistant costume designer, and the costume supervisor, and sometimes the key. We're all department leaders. We sometimes have to break off into all the various units and do all the different things. And so it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I don't know where it's going to land, and I don't know where it's going to
Right.
resolve.
Well,
But
I just wanted to put it out there in the world, that you guys, that the struggle that you guys are fighting, and
yeah,
anything that you have my moral support about it, and I just hope that
thank
it's
you.
something that anybody's listening out there who could do anything about it, can help you guys because it's
Thank
really
you.
not
Thank you
fair.
for saying that. And when I said I just noted about craft service, I'm not saying that they should make less.
Well, no, but
I'm saying that, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying everybody should make a fair wage, and overtime should be considered for certain positions. Of course, the cinematographer, the DP, me, the production designer, we don't make overtime because
Right.
the original thinking, the reason why a few of us department heads don't make overtime is because there was some thinking that we could actually slow down the production in order to make more money. Now, I have never met
Right.
anybody in my entire career that would ever
Please.
do something like that.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine slowing
Yeah.
down the production? All we're doing is trying to always like go as fast as we can
Right.
to never ever slow things down and never have the camera wait for us, God forbid. So that was the old-fashioned thinking, and I'm not sure if that's really still applicable. But so that was when you talk to the guilds, that's their reason because we're like, well, why does he? Well, how could the assistant designer possibly slow down production?
No, I
I
know
don't,
that's
you
ridiculous.
know.
It's an
And
old
and so I want everybody
trope.
to have a fair wage. I want everyone to be paid fairly, and I want everyone to make overtime and if they're working 6 days all the time to do it. But I mean, when the actors found out that I was making, I don't even know if I want to say the number, but like when the actors on a show that I did, not Stick, but when the
Hmm.
actors, because there was like this was in a big push for pay equity,
Right.
and there was a component about it that was a sexist component, and also there's a
Sure.
component of that to it.
I don't doubt
But
it.
when they found out that I was making like $5,000 less a week than another person, another
Right. Department
department
head.
head per week, but they just about fell over. They're like, but you
Yeah.
what? Like
It's
what? How
nuts.
what? Because we're all of us are equally responsible for what it looks like on screen.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Our
100%.
contribution. And then that was one of the other reasons. It's like, oh, the contribution of the costume department is not that important. I'm like, really? Have you ever seen a period film? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Come on.
any film, any project, you want to talk to an
Sure.
actor about how the costume's not important to them. And that's why I love it when a director is a former actor.
Right.
Ken Olin's a great example of this
I love
because they
Ken
know the
Owen.
process. They know what both of our departments are doing. They know
Yeah.
why it's important. They know from personal
Yeah.
experience why it's really crucial and important for the actor and for everything. So anyway, I've had more good experiences than bad. I will tell you that. I've only
Well,
had a
that's
handful of not so great experiences in my career, and I'm grateful for that.
yeah, you're lucky
Um, yeah,
for
but I've had a
sure.
couple doozies,
Yeah, of
and don't
course.
even get me started
That
on the
makes
Me Too of it
you
all because back in the
appreciate the good
day,
ones.
yeah. Anyway,
All right, my dear, we're
all
going to
right, you
have
guys.
to wrap this baby up. With that went pretty fast. We never even got into all the other. We'll have to do it again another time too. But I
Thank you
hope
guys for including the costume department. I just love that. I love that you guys
absolutely
also think collaboratively. I just feel like it's so important.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we get to work together again soon. Right?
I'm planning on it. I'll tell you about that later.
Okay,
I
fantastic,
have something on my sleeve I'll tell you about later. So we'll talk privately.
excellent. All right,
Okay.
Hala, thank
All
you
right, you
so
guys.
much, and Mikey's got some housekeeping.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, thank you all for tuning into another episode of Prop Talk, the official podcast of the Property Masters Guild, brought to you by real working and retired prop masters. If this is your first time listening, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment wherever you're hearing this. If you'd like to know more information on the Property Masters Guild or have any questions for us here at Prop Talk, be sure to go to propertymastersguild.org. We're also on Instagram @_the PMG and all other socials. Oh, yeah. We got MacGuffin Awards coming out, the only award show that honors prop masters for their work. So it looks like nominations are up for vote right now for the people that have submitted. So if you are a PMG member, please make sure to go check out the submission packets and vote for this year's MacGuffin nominees. I think tickets are also on sale for the MacGuffin Awards, which is in September. I'm not going to try to remember the date, but it is in September at the
12th
Paramount
or something
Theater.
like that.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, get your tickets before they're gone. I think every year it's sold out so far. So yeah. Get your tickets now. I think that's it. You got anything?
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
all I got. Just keep on keeping on, people. I know
Yeah.
it's tough out there, but it's going to get better.
It's getting better slowly. Until next time.
Hala, thank you.